Hello, everyone. Hi. So I was the project manager for the technical author team for PAS 2080, which was co-authored by Arab and Mott MacDonald. I'm from Mott MacDonald, so I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of PAS 2080, hopefully triggering some questions to discuss in a bit. So basically, three main key things in the agenda. What problem does PAS 2080 address? What are the parts of PAS 2080, and how can it add value to your organizations? I'm not going to repeat too much of the context, but this is all about why it came out. It's because of the huge challenge we're facing in the UK, but also globally, of infrastructure contributing one way or another over half of the UK's emissions, and 30% of those emissions associated with infrastructure are mainly from the assets we build and operate. The PAS 2080 was a recommendation, one of the recommendations in the infrastructure carbon review, which was a sister document to the cost review and showed the link between carbon and cost reduction. And it started really by recognizing that in order to reduce carbon, it's not only about having a carbon quantification tool, having about some really cool gadgets that will help you reduce your capital or operational carbon. It recognizes there are three key ingredients to carbon reduction. The first one is about the technical, which is about the low carbon solutions, the technologies, the design solutions, the construction solutions. The second one is about having the right processes and tools in terms of the governance, the right governance and like tools like carbon quantification, calculators, gateway delivery processes in how you deliver infrastructure. But most importantly, there are other elements in the behavioral aspects of carbon reduction, which is about the leadership, the challenge, creating the right culture in an organization, all these things that the infrastructure carbon review talked about. So this is how the PAS 2080 started really. And this is the cover of PAS 2080. And what it does really just provides a common language to all players in the infrastructure value chain across all the infrastructure sectors of how to consistently manage and in turn reduce carbon. And there are specific requirements, and as Chris mentioned, it's a bit dry, the PAS in the language. So there is a guidance document with more detailed practical how-to guidance for the audience of PAS 2080 that brings the PAS to life. Right, so who is this targeted to? So the PAS is targeted at practitioners in the value chain, while the infrastructure carbon review was targeted at senior leaders in organizations to get that belief, if you like, and do something about it. The PAS is targeted at the practitioner level, so the people who are going to actually implement it. And these are people in different parts of the value chain, highlighted in the different colors here. The asset owners, managers, the designers, constructors, product material suppliers. So the PAS has different requirements for each of those and common requirements for all, so that they're able to be certified under PAS 2080 as a PAS 2080 asset owner manager, PAS 2080 designer, constructor, product material supplier. It recognizes that the biggest role for all of them is to challenge, and I'm going to come into that, but also that the greatest benefits for reducing carbon and cost is by working together. Again, common messages that were mentioned earlier. So, what are the parts of PAS 2080? So let's start now with the infrastructure delivery timeline. These are the infrastructure work stages that are consistent with the BIM standard 1192. So we're starting from strategy brief, design, construction, etc. And we recognize that the ability to reduce whole life carbon is reducing over time. So the greatest opportunity is up front. However, the accuracy of any knowledge we have on what assets we're going to build, it increases over time. So the PAS 2080 recognizes, using the conceptual carbon reduction hierarchy, which is about if you're building nothing, you actually save 100% of your carbon, building less, etc. These are conceptual reduction numbers. It's basically built around the challenge of how we bring all the value chain together, members of the value chain together, working under a framework, a carbon management process, and start collaborating at those early stages from strategy to brief in order to capture most of the opportunity to reduce whole life carbon. PAS 2080 covers these types of emissions that Tim also mentioned, capital carbon, operational carbon, and user carbon. And It recognizes the capital and operational carbon is in the hands of the value chain players delivering infrastructure because they have a direct control. However, user carbon is very, very important because there are lots of things that people can do to influence the user carbon, like, for example, demand management measures, whatever sector you're in, like water, energy, etc. And this is actually the essence of PAS 2080. PAS 2080 is centered around a carbon management process, which is basically consisting of different carbon management components, the dark blue boxes. And this is about requirements for setting targets, whole life carbon reduction targets, requirements on understanding your baseline of what you're trying to develop, either a project or a program of work, how you go about quantifying the different types of emissions with tools and guidance that are more included in the guidance document, how you monitor those emissions and provide the right visibility for reporting in order to understand where you are, and how you actually put processes in place to continuously improve. And all these are across the timeline of delivering infrastructure. However, this is the center of the PAS, but it's recognized, and that's the fundamental aspect, that's how the first clause of the PAS starts, is that with the right leadership, it gives you some guidance of what it means leadership at board level, practitioner level in any organization, how you set up the right governance in your organization, encompassing all these carbon management components in order to create that culture where you challenge everything and you create new innovative solutions that reduce carbon and cost. So the PAS and guidance document do have specific requirements of detailed guidance of how you do all these different boxes, basically, and give you also sources of information of where you find, for example, emissions factors, what does a good tool look like, how would you go about reporting, how do you set your baselines, what's your first step. So these are practical guidance for all the infrastructure sectors and different value chain players of how to make it happen. One of the other things that is included in the guidance document are specific responsibilities for each of the value chain members. Chris mentioned earlier in his organization, well, if I gave it only to the sustainability or carbon manager, it would never have happened. So it recognizes that for all the different value chain players, there are different layers of people in the organization where they have specific responsibilities of what to do and when in order to follow the carbon management process. And the guidance document provides more clarity into that. And now, most importantly, what does this mean for you and for your organization? So basically, what can PAS 2080 offer to you and your clients? Well, to me, a lot of people ask me, okay, so what does this mean if I'm certified as PAS 2080 designer, constructor, asset owner, manager? Well, actually, if you are, it gives you the credibility that you're capable of having the skills, the right people, to follow all the different boxes that I showed you in the carbon management process to be able to set the right governance, you have the right leadership at the right level, you know how to set targets, ambitious targets and bold targets, you know how to quantify carbon, how to integrate all those low carbon solutions, the technology bits. So basically, you know how to do all these 3 different key ingredients of carbon reduction in your organization. So that gives you the credibility of being capable to do all these things, but also being able to work with others, proactively challenging them in order to collaboratively reduce carbon and cost. So this is also an extract from the guidance document where we have some RACI matrices, responsibility, accountability, consult, and information for all the different infrastructure work stages. What are the key practical steps that need to happen? And who is responsible from the value chain players and when in order to make these things happen? And also this is the summary actually of all the requirements of PAS 2080, which is in Annex B. And it gives you, on the right-hand side, it's all the different stages for delivering infrastructure. On the left-hand side are all the carbon management process components. And in the matrix, it gives you a summary of what you need to do according to your color, whether you're an asset owner, manager, constructor, supplier, at each of the stages. And you will see a lot of these boxes are white because that means these are common requirements for everyone. That means they have to work together. So I think this is a very brief, quick overview. I hope it has given you a bit of food for thought for any questions. And yeah, thank you.